Cicada was the big bad of CW's Flash's season 5, and then it got separated into a second Cicada, who was Orland's daughter from the future that came back to present day for some reason. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about the original Cicada, the one that we got from Majority Season 5, Orland Dwyer, whatever, however you pronounce his last name. I'm going to be talking about him, and I'm going to be breaking it down into 4 different segments, all of which you can find at the timestamps of this video. The first segment will be if I think Cicada was a good villain or not. What if Cicada arrived in Season 8? My main problems with Cicada as a big bad, and similar problems with DeVoe, because there are similar problems. So I'm going to break this video down into 4 segments. You can skip ahead however you like to. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of the video. Was Cicada a good villain? In my opinion, no. And this wasn't the problem of him being dragged out, which he was dragged out. Because after midway through season 5, if you remember, they figured out 2 ways to stop Cicada. Before the cure, Barry could have thrown lightning at Cicada from a distance, like he did, I think, twice, and Nora XS even did it. But also, Frost could have held Cicada's dagger back, and then Barry kicked Cicada's ass. But, due to plot reasons, they didn't do that. Even though in the exact episode, Seeing Red, where XS got hurt and her back got broke by Cicada, and Barry went, really pissed off and angry the entire episode, when that whole Frost thing happened with her holding Cicada's dagger back so Barry could kick Cicada's ass, they sort of said in the episode they could do that again. And a couple episodes later, Cicada threw his dagger and they didn't do crap. So, yes, they could have stopped Cicada, but they wanted a pep talk instead of a fight. Now, I want to remind everyone real quick, the showrunner was Todd Helbing, not Eric Wallace. So, let's not dig into Eric for that, because clearly this started with Todd Helbing and not Eric. So, you do with that what you will. But people are saying Eric Wallace is the key of pep talks for the series, even though Eric had way more fight scenes in the show through the course of 3 years than Todd Helbing did in 5 years. And even then, the pep talks for Eric Wallace weren't as bad as the ones that Todd Helbing did, or as irritating as the ones that Todd Helbing did. Just something to think about when you attack Eric Wallace next time. But Cicada was not a good villain. And again, being dragged out is not the main reason, but it's the acting for the villain alone was not that great. The actor really overdid it. I don't know if he was given the wrong material or what, but it was not good. And for him to be a season-long villain with the Barry that we had didn't work at all. What if Cicada arrived in season 8 of the series? Now, I've made very clear that I love season 8 of the show. I know a lot of people don't. I think it's severely underrated and severely overhated. The season was amazing, and the Barry that we got was the best version of the Flash the show has ever had. With a villain like Cicada, Barry could have taken him down within like a 4-episode story arc. Wouldn't have been right away, because Cicada can be powerful with that dagger. If Barry and Cicada never met, let's say Cicada arrived in season 8, right? Which is the entire point of the segment, and they never met. Barry goes to Cicada, he pulls out that dagger, his powers are gone. Similar fight to what happened in 502 when Barry got his butt handed to him. But then the second episode, Barry figures out that he can maybe go into Flash time and get rid of that dagger, tries that, it doesn't work, his butt handed to him. Next episode, he, throws lightning at Cicada from a distance, cuffs him, throws him in, gets rid of the dagger, or thinks he does, and the dagger comes back. And an episode later, they have a fight, and Barry wins, and Cicada's done. Simple as that. That's how you can easily do Cicada in season 8 of the show, if that had happened. And it would have been a full-on graphic novel, which Eric Wallace loved doing graphic novels. There you go. You could have replaced the Desert Mark, which, don't get me wrong, the Desert Mark, in my opinion, was great, but Cicada in season 8 would have been just perfection for season 8 Barry, because he wouldn't need a team to deal with Cicada. He could have done it by himself. He fought Despero and Thawne about 3 or 4 times by himself in season 8 alone. And God knows, I think a couple metahumans in season 8 as well by himself. If Cicada was in season 8, I mean, it would have been a graphic novel and it would have been done. It wouldn't have been dragged out. It wouldn't have been so pathetic. Maybe the acting still wouldn't have been great, the same person, but it still would have worked for season 8 Barry because he's so powerful. I mean, he would have figured a way out on his own. Maybe a little from Chester, maybe Cecile if need be. But, you know, Barry could fight Cicada on his own and not need to rely on anyone else. That's the season 8 Flash that we had, and it would have gone perfectly with Cicada. And Eric Wallace, I know I'm going to get hate for this, but Eric Wallace would have done Cicada right. Would have done this character justice for the Flash. Probably would have made him better than the version he was in the comics. And in my opinion, would have been the best villains of the series if Eric Wallace had done that. But we didn't, and you know, season 8 is still amazing. I still love the season. Main problems with Cicada as a big bad. I've kind of already touched on this several times, but the main one is the acting. The acting was not good. And then Cicada being dragged out throughout 18 or 19 episodes, only for them to bring in another Cicada, did not work. Especially when Cicada could have been stopped. Like episode 10 or 11, remember that Seeing Red episode was, where Barry and Frost teamed up and Barry kicked Cicada's ass. They could have ended it there, or an episode later at most. I mean, it was too dragged out, and the writing did not work. They kept making excuses as to why Cicada didn't show up for like episodes at a time. Remember that? Like, Cicada didn't show up for like 4 episodes in a row, but they kept mentioning him. That's not how you do a big bad. A big bad needs to appear a majority of the season, not like 10 episodes throughout the entirety of his run in the season. That's why I like the graphic novel form that Eric Wallace did, because we still saw the big bad throughout the entire novel of that villain. It wasn't like, oh, we see Red Death, even in Red Death arc. I mean, yeah, we saw her once throughout the first episodes, but the arc was about the Rogues and Red Death, not just Red Death. We did see the Rogues. Now, that arc was not that great. I'm not gonna defend it, but I damn well know that arc still focused on the villains of the arc and not side villains, right? We didn't go into the arc like with like Cicada and the Rogues that are supposed to be the main focus. We had so much happen during season 5 that Cicada was sidelined for majority of the season, which is kind of ironic if you look at the later seasons. But, you know, given the bear, I mean, it really is a problem that the show had in season 5 that was a similar problem season 4 had, which I'll talk about in a minute, relating to DeVoe. But Cicada could have been stopped twice through 2 main things that they brought up before the cure, before the pep talks. It would have worked. And it could have led to like a later season of them bringing Cicada back to be even like a more like powerful villain like Bloodwork did. But then they wrap him up in a way that Eric Wallace did for Bloodworker in 909 of The Flash. It could have worked. It really would have worked. But instead we got screwed over and Cicada became one of the worst villains of the series, next to Ava and DeVoe. So, you know, there's that. And the Forces too. But those weren't really villains in a way. Those were just, you know, a side story to fill in for COVID precautions. But I mean, even then, you know, however you want to take it, you take it. But yeah. Similar problems with DeVoe, as Cicada and DeVoe both being big bads of season 4 and season 5. Obviously, season 4 being DeVoe, season 5 being Cicada. These 2 villains have a lot in common of how bad they were as villains. Now, for DeVoe, who I do believe was a better villain than Cicada, but not till the back half of the season, because in the first half, Barry could have stopped him like that. But they couldn't do that, so they dragged it out. Again, the main problem with DeVoe is that he was dragged out. And then the body swapping came in, which was so incredibly stupid. The power stealing was great, but the body swapping was ridiculous. I mean, they should have kept the original DeVoe and then, you know, have him go through all these new powers, and that would have been cool. Not, hey, we're going to body swap the entirety of the season till we get to Ralph and then he dies in episode 18 this season. Or was it 17? 18 or 17, whatever it was, where Ralph died. Or presumably died. Whatever. The point is, you know, that arc should have played out differently, a lot differently. But the acting for DeVoe was great when it was the DeVoe actor. when it was the other actors, it kind of felt like it was forced, which obviously it was because DeVoe wasn't DeVoe anymore. He was, in a different body. So like sometimes he was a she or he was still a he, but it was really weird. But the point is that similar problems with DeVoe and Cicada being that A, they were dragged out, and B, the writing was just not great for those two villains. And also Barry could have stopped DeVoe a lot sooner than he ever could have for Cicada, because Cicada had a dagger that damaged his powers. All DeVoe had was a floating chair that made him Professor X that could think real fast. That's it. I mean, Barry can think faster than DeVoe could possibly ever think. We know that. Season 8 Barry could. Why can't Season 4 Barry? The guy who literally outran a nuclear explosion couldn't defeat a guy who thinks fast in the floating Professor X chair? No, come on. DeVoe was a better villain than Cicada, but just by a bare margin for me. And it could have been played out so much better, so differently. It sucks that it didn't come out that way, honestly. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. Have a good day. Have a good night. Stay safe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.